come with it. You got the good food, amen. You got some great people to be with. You got your friends, you got your family, you got your illegal fireworks, which I would say you shouldn't have them. If you have them, please don't lose a leg or a foot or something, because we want you here, we want you safe. So just be cautious. But yeah, I like New Year's. It's an amazing celebration. It comes with a lot of good things. But I think that also for the new year, a lot of people may be scared of it. A lot of people are looking forward for the new year, but a lot of people don't because maybe this year wasn't your year. Maybe this year you have some goals, some aspirations that you wanted to accomplish, and you managed to do some of those. But also, a lot of things happen in this year that you were not planning for, and it just hit you out of nowhere, and it caused you a lot of pain. Maybe things in your job were not the best, and because of that, you didn't make as much money as you were expecting. Maybe you got let go of your job because of that. Maybe you were struggling with some health issues that were affecting every single area of your life, and it just made everything in your life worse. Maybe things in your marriage haven't been the best. Your family life hasn't been the best. And so now you're sitting here, December 29, 2 days away from the new year, and you're like, is 2025 going to be more of the same? Am I going to experience the same things that I experienced? Is it going to be worse than 2024? And I wish that I could give you a solid answer and be like, absolutely not. Everything's going to be amazing. It's going to be the best year of your life. You're going to accomplish everything that you want. Everything's going to be amazing. I can't give you that answer because I can't see the future. But what I am certain of is this. We serve a living God that gave us His Word, and His Word is able to give us hope in the middle of the darkest situations that we might face. And because of that, we are going to look at a story in John chapter 9 that I think can really help us for the new year. There's a specific guy in the story that, it's one of my favorite chapters, by the way, in the whole Bible. I see his story and I'm like, wow, this guy, he is amazing. So we're going to go to John chapter 9. We're going to start in verses 1 through 5, and it says this. As he went along, he saw a man blind from birth, talking about Jesus. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the works of God may be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. Or I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Notice verse 3 in here. You see, a lot of people back in the day, for example, you go to the Romans, they thought that if you were born rich, you were born powerful, you were born healthy, it's because the gods like you. If you were born poor and with health issues and all these things, it's because the gods don't like you. And in Jewish belief, even though the Old Testament didn't taught this, a lot of people taught this thing. That's why we see in this passage. They thought, well, if you are having some issues, well, it's because either you or your parents sinned. So that's why you're struggling with this. And then Jesus is like, no, this is not what happened. I imagine if I go and ask you if you believe this, you'll be like, no, I don't believe that this is the case. But even though we don't believe it, sometimes that belief sneaks into our minds when things get really difficult. And now when we go through difficult things, we say, God, are you mad at me? God, am I going through this because I did something in my past? Did I do something this week? Have I not been spending enough time with you? And this is why I am struggling with this issue? A lot of people have this belief. A lot of people think that God is this petty God that gets easily angry, and he is ready, waiting for you to make a mistake so that he can punish you right away. And that is not the God that we serve. We don't serve a petty God that is waiting to punish you. We serve a God that is waiting with open arms to help us because he doesn't want us to walk through our circumstances by ourselves. He wants to be there in our circumstances. So that's what we see in this passage. And this guy, he gets healed. Jesus heals him. And you would imagine that this guy is going to throw a party. He's going to celebrate all of the good things that happened. He's back in society. He doesn't have to beg in the corner anymore. Everything's fine. And some people joined him. Some people were happy for him and celebrated his new life. But some people were doubtful. They were like, is this the same guy that we used to see over there that was blind and begging? I don't think that's the same guy. And the religious leaders thought the same thing, and because they don't want to give even an inch of credit to Jesus, they invite this guy to have a little chat. And so they're going back and forth in order to see, is this guy really the same guy, or is this somebody else? So they're going back and forth, and they're like, let's bring the parents. They bring the parents, and the parents are like, well, this is our son, and he was born blind, but how he got healed, I don't know. You can ask him. He's a grown-up. He can answer for himself. Now, just think about that. If your child goes to you and they're like, Mom, Dad, I just got healed. Now I can see again. There was this Jesus guy, and he put mud on my face. He'll be like, I mean, I believe you. I know you were blind, and now you can see, so something happened. I believe it was Jesus or whoever. But why then they don't want to say that? Well, back in the day, the religious leaders were so against Jesus that they put this law where if you acknowledge that God was the Messiah, that he came from God, you were going to get kicked out of the synagogue. Now, getting kicked out of the synagogue back in the day, it's not like getting kicked out of church nowadays where you can just go to another church down the street or something. If you get kicked out of the synagogue back in the day, you were out of society. And if you're out of society, you can't really make a living. You can't really make money. You can't make trades. You can't buy food. People are going to ignore you because, well, if I'm with you, you got kicked out. They're going to kick me out too, so I don't want anything to do with you. So because of this, the parents were like, I ain't going to do anything. I'm going to stay away. And so now they're again going back and forth. The religious leaders are trying to say, okay, maybe it was this, God have mercy on you, but it wasn't Jesus. You just got healed. And notice the response that this man gave to the religious leaders. The man answered, now that is remarkable. You don't know where he comes from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners. He listens to the godly person who does his will. Nobody has ever heard of opening the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. Not bad for a guy that just got saved a couple of days ago. Now, this guy, he says this, and the religious leaders, they're like, how dare you say this to us? How dare you respond to us like that? You were born in sin. You can't lecture us. And so they get so offended that they kick him out of the synagogue, just like his parents were fearing. And so I want you guys to picture this guy for a second. Put yourself in his shoes. This guy was no longer part of society because he was a blind man and he had to endure all the issues that come with that. He gets healed. He's probably having so many expectations for his life. He wants to do a lot of things now that he's healed. He has so many goals, so many things that he wants to accomplish. He wants to see the world for himself. And in probably a week or even less, he gets thrown through religious leaders having to defend his faith. Now, mind you, he's just a regular guy. He doesn't know theology. Imagine if you got asked to do jury duty, which I imagine not everybody's excited about that. You get asked to do jury duty, and then the judge comes to you and he's like, hey, the attorney couldn't be here today, so is there a way that you can step in for the attorney? I don't know anything about law, so you got the wrong guy. Maybe there's somebody else doing jury duty that knows law, but me, no. This is what this guy is supposed to do. He doesn't know any theology. He didn't study anything. He's just a poor blind man. And he's having to argue with the guys that are training this thing. And so he goes through all of this. He's trying to do the right thing. And because he did the right thing, he gets kicked out of the synagogue. He was out of society, got back in society, and then got back to square one. And what makes this worse is that the religious leaders were the ones that caused this. You see, the religious leaders were supposed to be there for him when he was blind, maybe giving him some help, maybe providing some food, because how is this guy going to provide for himself? And instead of being there for him when he needed it, they ignore him, and then when he's actually here and back in society, they kick him back. And I want to make a parenthesis real quick, because I know that we're talking about expectations and the new year, but maybe this is your story. Maybe you got hurt and you decided to go to the church to seek some help, and instead of giving you some help, the church ignored you. You were in need. You needed somebody to be there for you in that really bad struggle, and they were not there for you. Or even worse, they caused it. Your hurt that you're experiencing right now is all because of the church. And if that's the case, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you had to walk through that. The church should have been the first people to be there, the first people to be there and help you, see how they can help you, hear you out. And maybe that's not what happened. And I know that church hurt is a really difficult and complex topic, and I'm not trying to minimize it because it takes a lot of time to heal. It's not something that you can overcome in a span of a couple days. But what I want to say is this. Don't let church hurt keep you away from Jesus. Don't let church hurt keep you away from the one that wants to heal your pain. Because guess what? Jesus agrees with you. He agrees that this shouldn't have been the situation. Jesus commanded them to be there for you, and they did not obey. Don't let church hurt keep you away from the one that wants to be there for you, to heal you and help you in those circumstances. Because, yeah, you can probably go through it by yourself, but you're making it more complicated. Why not go to Jesus where he wants to help you heal so you don't have to experience this on your own? Go to Jesus so that you can be healed from your pain. And like I said, Jesus agrees, because notice his response after this. Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, and when he found him, he said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" So Jesus, immediately as this guy gets kicked out, he's like, I got to find him. I know. It's like this radar that he has where he's like, I know this guy needs me, so I'm going to go wherever he is to make sure that he's okay. And so Jesus finds this man, and they have a conversation, and he's like, as you can see here, hey, you believe I'm the Son of Man? And he says, yes. And Jesus invites him to follow him. And now he is back into community. Even though he is no part of the Jewish society, he found his group. He found Jesus and his people. That is what this man found. And I like his approach. I like what is going on in here because it really helps you, right? Maybe you feel identified with this man because your expectations for this year got turned around. You had your goals, you had your things that you wanted to accomplish, and yet everything got turned around. Just like everything for this man got turned around. But what helped this man? Yeah, it was Jesus. But how exactly? How does this man's story help me for the new year? Well, earlier in the chapter and also in the previous chapter, Jesus calls himself the light of the world. And what does the light do? Well, it illuminates darkness. So even though there's a lot of darkness around me, even though I have the unexpected things that may come in the next year and the darkness that come with it, I know there's a path that I can follow where I know where I am walking. I know where my next step is. I may not see everything around me. I may not see everything 2020 in front of me, but there's a light, there's a path that Jesus has drawn for me that I can follow and be certain that I am safe. That is what Jesus does in the middle of darkness. What else does the light do? It brings warmth. I don't know if you remember from movies or maybe science experiments back in elementary, but usually you will have this baby chicken, and the baby chicken will be shivering because the baby chicken is cold. So what do? You take the baby chicken, you put it in this container that has a light bulb, and the light bulb brings some warmth to the baby chicken. And that's also what we receive from Jesus. Because sometimes God is calling us to go forward. God is calling us to fight our battles, conquer the world for Jesus, and do what he has called us to do. But there are times when, man, things are really difficult. I don't really have the strength to keep going. And I just have to stay still and experience the warmth, the love that God has for me. Yeah, there's a path that I can follow. There's a light, but I don't really have the strength, so I'm really going to embrace the warmth, the love that God has for me. That's what the light does for us. That's what Jesus wants to do in your life. And in order to experience this, I think that we need to have a different mindset. I think that next year we need to have a mindset where we can experience Jesus as a light of the world. And what is it? The mindset for 2025 needs to be, I am going to be desperate for Jesus. I'm going to be desperate for Jesus. Because I don't want to put myself away from him. I don't want to go through the darkness alone. I don't want to go into 2025 alone. I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing, whatever comes next, I got Jesus on my side. So if I'm doing my thing and I realize I'm getting away from Jesus, I'm like, nope, I'm going back. I want to stay as close to Jesus as possible. Parents, help me out. So I imagine, especially when your kids were little, they had a favorite. So whether it was mom or it was dad, Usually, maybe you're chilling in the living room, you're spending some time with your kids, and everything's fine, and you need to go to the bathroom or you need to go to the kitchen and get a snack, and you go away, and then your kid, in like a minute or even less than that, they have this radar where they're like, Mom, Dad, where are you? And they just go, they're crying, they're calling your name, and you're like, I was there with you the whole time. I leave for 5 seconds, and now you're calling me. What happened? That's what toddlers usually do. And that's the mindset that we should have with Jesus. And sure, Jesus is not going to go away from us. Usually, sometimes we get distracted with things, and that's how we get away from Jesus. But that's the mindset that we need to have for the new year. You need to have this radar where maybe you get distracted with your job, you get distracted with the things that you want to accomplish, you get distracted with school or your job or things in the family, your to-do list for the day. You get distracted and you're like, oh, wait, Jesus, I need to be close to him. I want him to be as close to me as possible because I don't want to do this on my own. And in order to have this mindset, we need to have some sacrifices. So if I need to separate 10 minutes in the middle of the day because I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and I'm stressed, this is a difficult day, I'm going to take those 10 minutes because I want to be as close to Jesus as possible. Maybe I need to wake up earlier in the day because this day I have a lot of things to do and I don't want to go through this day on my own. So I'm going to wake up a bit earlier and spend that time with Jesus because I need him. That's what we need to do. Maybe you need to stay up a bit later during the day because you know, man, like this day has been difficult, but I want to give my last couple of minutes to God because I need him. I want to stay as close to him as I can. I'm going to listen to worship music because I want to keep God in my mind as much as I can because I don't want to be away from him. I want to be as close to him as possible. In order to experience Jesus as the light of the world, we need to make some sacrifices so that we can be close to him. This is what this man did. He acknowledged his need for Jesus. Even though he was blind and then he could see, he acknowledged that he was blind spiritually. And because of that, he said, I need Jesus. But instead, the religious leaders, they could see, physically they could see, but spiritually they were blind. And because of that, they couldn't acknowledge their need for Jesus. And so 2025 is around the corner. It is coming really, really soon. And again, that comes with a lot of good things, but also it comes with a lot of unexpected. But you don't have to go through 2025 on your own. You don't have to experience the new year on your own. You can go into the new year knowing that Jesus is the light of the world, and with that comes light in the middle of darkness. With that comes warm when we don't have the strength to keep going. And if we want to experience that, our mindset for 2025 needs to be, I am desperate for Jesus. I don't want to spend any time without him because I know that on my strength, I can't do this. But with God on my side, no matter what the next year brings, I know that I have something to hold on to, something that is never going to fail me, someone that is going to bring light and warmth in the middle of the darkness. Let's pray. God, thank you for this time. Thank you for bringing us here together and giving us the opportunity, Lord, to have some time with you and just realize who you are. You are the light of the world, and we're thankful for that, Lord. We pray that you help us to have this mindset for the next year, Lord, so that we're able to experience you in the best way possible. We're able to get closer to you, Lord, and have a year where, regardless of what happened, we can say, God, I knew that you were there for me. I got closer to you, and I'm thankful for being there for me, Lord. I pray that you bless us in this last couple of days that we have for 2024, so that we're able to have a great time with our family, with our friends, and just have fun, Lord, and be able to say goodbye to this year, Lord. Thank you for everything, and I pray for your blessing over your people, Lord. Amen.